Welcome back, Ninja community and persons who have watched my quality statement disclaimer video. If you haven't seen that already, you should probably go and check that out. Now in this video, I'm going to be covering a little bit more on how to tell if you've walked into either a McDojo or a real ninja convention. Okay, now the term McDojo is often referred to within the martial arts setting as a term that is typically an insult to the establishment that you're walking into. It has nothing to do with other types of franchises within other businesses that might have similar names. Okay, but if you, no, I don't suggest using that word when you walk into a place because, you know, you might want your teeth and, you know, digits left intact because that might be a quick way to tell. Which gets me into my quality statement disclaimer. Okay, so bear with me on that one. I did this one mostly for liability. Okay, so bear with me real quick. So the viewer understands my quality statement disclaimer video. Additionally, agrees to treat this video as is with ballistic protection. That means, in short, that it don't have a seal on it. Therefore, I don't guarantee the techniques and/or your application of the techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using its content in committing a crime, that is additionally a crime. Actually using my content in committing a crime is also an additional crime. Okay, now, talking about the difference between mcdojos and real ninja conventions, like there are some things that you might see that when you first walk into an establishment, if half or more of all the people are wearing black belts, you might have either walked into a ninja convention or a McDojo. They're difficult to tell apart sometimes. And see, most businesses strive to not be run, well, most martial arts establishments strive to not be run like a business, which gets me into talking a little bit on you kind of have to have a balance sometimes. Okay, so talking about my quality statement and disclaimer. Okay, now what I do here with this video is I do art. I'm handing art, often ninja poetry, and I do my quality statement and disclaimer the way I do, mostly over liability. However, this is also my intellectual property, and the viewer viewing it agrees that it is my intellectual property. Okay, so getting into, like, say if I was to sell this mask here, right? I could sell this mask as art, regardless of what materials it's made out of. Okay? If I wanted to sell this as ballistic protection, I would have to get a seal, an official seal on it from a business that does testing of materials like this. Okay? But as art, I could sell this as art because it's protected under the Constitution. Now, anyone who tries to obtain anything ballistically resistant, it is solely up to how that person uses the materials, regardless of the manufacturer, especially if the manufacturer is a manufacturer of ballistic resistant materials, mostly because they push to have that legislation put into place, from what I understand. Again, not a lawyer. Okay? Don't claim to know much about law. Okay, so this right here, I could sell as my art, right? And I have even described what it's made out of. Like, there's roughly 10 layers of silk on both sides of approximately 60 layers of woven fiberglass material. Okay, now, could it be ballistically resistant? Could be. I'd have to get a seal. I'd have to have my materials tested, and they would put a seal on there of exactly what it's resistant to. Okay, but like this mask and the way that I put this together, like the way I put it together, is my intellectual property. I'm not sharing that information. Of course, what would I know about like anything to do with combat engineering? I don't have any credentials for any correspondence courses for things like that, nor JAG, nor any of those sort of things. Okay, when it comes to telling the difference between the two, sometimes you run into credentials, like when it comes into telling the difference between a McDojo and a real ninja convention, oftentimes real ninjas will have at least some of their credentials. Like on my quality statement disclaimer video, I have my DD214 with some of my private information blocked out, but there's still things on there like my MOS and some of my military education, and of course, let's see, like medals, etc. Okay. I have some certifications. Okay. And then a lot of times you still have to pay attention to like the credentials presented to you when it comes to telling apart real ninja conventions from mcdojos. See, like these are printouts of my certification achievement, a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that, et cetera, has completed FEMA, and I am certified to the state and federal on some emergency management. Okay, so you can't always go by this, but a lot of times it's on record if someone is, they keep track of that. Okay, so, but claiming any credentials that you don't have, like either on record or right in front of you, you get into legal avenues. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about like martial arts federations. Okay, one of the best ways of telling whether or not you're walking into a McDojo or a real ninja convention is you look at, are they federation recognized? Now I know exactly how difficult it is to try to get federation recognition, okay? Which is kind of like getting a seal on your product, whatever you're selling, okay? Now, you also get into, when it comes into legal avenues, you also come into like intellectual property. See, what I show in my ninja poetry is solely my intellectual property. I'm not showing any particular recognized style or brand of any other martial arts. Okay? So, clearing that part up, which is also in my quality statement disclaimer. I will talk about when I tried to get, see, I could get a, like for this, I could get a, like a trademark to sell art and sell this as art perfectly fine. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. Protecting how I made this, that's just what I'll keep to myself. Okay? Now, I know exactly how difficult it is to try to get martial arts federation recognition. In fact, I did once try about as early as 2007, tried to get martial arts federation recognition. And the conclusion that they gave me was that it's either a traditional style or my intellectual property, but they postponed the ruling based on lack of a trademark, like just having something saying that it's my symbol or something to use as a brand, okay, and not having enough senior students or advanced level students to show the same style versus the same style. Now, they did agree that it was my intellectual property, okay? Some of the techniques that I have been releasing, and some of these individuals have seen it as early as 2007, okay? I've come across martial artists who were of master level martial artists in their arts. And some of the things I've shown them have been highly effective and things they have never seen before within 30 years of practicing martial arts professionally, okay? So if I see someone using my intellectual property, that gets into legal avenues, okay? Like, I can share with you some movements and techniques, and I will continue to do this, but I would much rather not see my intellectual property being misused. In other words, it's more like if someone is making money off of someone else's intellectual property, that's when you get into the legal aspect. If someone isn't making money off of it, if they hypothetically know a lot about different martial arts styles, but they're not making any money off of it, they could pretty much do almost anything they wanted with it. Pretty much. Okay? Just throwing that out there. Now, of course, what would I know about law? Right? And see, oh boy. I'll share with you some ninja poetry, just so I can just keep working at this. Okay? Now, I think it's possible that someone could emulate the techniques based on what they already know. However, the specific combination and how it applies, if I break it down how it applies, that is my intellectual property. Okay, so I will show one technique and one ninja poem that has two parts. Okay, so I'll demonstrate it. Let's see. I'll demonstrate it unarmed and with a sai. Okay, so the technique of thunder from under. Can you see that? Can you see? Okay, so the technique of thunder from under the mountain is usually a check first, like just any sort of check, really. Just sometimes it's like a slap to the side of the head, but it comes from a pivoting uppercut from the lead, right? It is a pivoting diagonal uppercut, okay, which does not exist within very many martial arts systems. Okay, it can be performed with a sai. So you have like some sort of check, you have a pivoting uppercut, okay, or it could even be done this way, okay. There's also eagle flies like crane, which comes from a hook, like a tiger-looking hook, right, like this, and comes from the same arm that comes out like this. Okay, so it comes from a hook here, and it is ambiguous with various weapons in order for it to be part of the form that I use, which is not a traditionally recognized Chinese or Japanese martial arts style. Okay, so from here, not with your finger on it, okay, you're either here or here, okay, but for simplicity, you have a tiger flies like crane. It's ambiguous with very, very many different weapons. Okay. Very simple, not very flashy. So as a lead, diagonal uppercut, pivoting uppercut. So if you've watched my video so far, feel free to hit like hard like a ninja, and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel to be alerted for when I do random videos on there, and check me out on my Facebook under my artist name Meleo, that's M-E-L-E-O, or my 10th ninja name, and subscribe to be alerted for when I do random videos. Let's see, I think I also have an Instagram. Well, we're getting into the differences between mcdojos and real ninja conventions. To tell the difference, you really look at to make sure, like, do they have their credentials, or do they have at least some of their credentials, right? And like a real ninja might have some of his credentials, but not all of his credentials. But the main thing is you look at the effectiveness of the technique. Okay? Getting into legal avenues though, like even if it's effective, if someone has stolen the intellectual property and tried to make money off of it, you know, you get into legal avenues, right? Let's see. Martial arts establishments they strive to not be run like a business. They strive to be run like an art, like fighting art, and follow its tradition. Okay, which is very difficult to do because you really have to have a balance there, right? For instance, you got to keep the lights on and the doors open. Okay, now I completely understand about that one. Like, I mentioned something about a Tesla generator over social media, and then the power company knocks on my door, and like I even had like a no trespassing sign, but I was probably a little bit late. But what's really funny is the guy was there to turn off the power, and I hadn't got a notice, like a final notice in the mail. While he was here, I tried to pay him money. He didn't seem to want to take it, and while he was here, the mail ran and dropped off the final notice. So I don't know what universe this is, but from the universe I'm from, things work a little bit differently. So either I know what I'm talking about, or I'm just completely crazy. Okay? It's very difficult to have both. Okay? So I'll just continue to be ninja. I will hope the lights stay on and try to handle this. Goodness. Here I am trying to keep the lights on. Okay, so okay, getting into some of the techniques that I've been showing you. Some people have been practicing martial arts professionally, like really teaching martial arts, not using some brand out there that might be letters for a sport. Okay, which is a sport. Okay, when you get into federation recognitions, you have to really also look at the federation recognizing you. Okay, there's one out there that's a sport, and there's some athletes within their sport that has made some pretty outrageous claims about how like the Ip Man would fare in a real street fight. I would not want to fight a Wing Chun Sifu in a knife fight. It's not going to happen. Like, that is a bad mistake to make. The way I would fight would be, like, I would throw out some philosophies. Like, one of them would be exploitation. You do not try to exploit someone's strength, okay? Don't try to fight like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt on the ground. Bad idea. Where they have an advantage. Now, when it comes to training, you know, where you can walk away afterwards, you know, that's when you push yourself into those uncomfortable situations. When you're, you know, when you're really fighting, you put your opponent in those uncomfortable situations. Okay, so I'll cover a little bit more on some of my ninja poetry. Okay, let's see, I did 3 parts in another video.